Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Today I would like to talk about Ijtihad in Shariah, in Islamic law. This is based on my book chapter 6, the book entitled Shariah and Life, Halal Tayyiban Perspective, chapter 6. So when we talk about Ijtihad, or in English maybe we can translate it as personal intellectual exercise, whether in the light of Islamic jurisprudence or usul al-fiqh. So this topic is no doubt strongly related to the subject what we call usul al-fiqh, by which it is the method of deriving an Islamic rulings. And no doubt when we talk about Islamic source, or the source in Islamic law, primarily refer to Al-Quran and As-Sunnah and so on. But Ijtihad must be also a very important means in order to know the maqasid Shariah, and then finally issue certain verdicts regarding to the certain products. So Shariah is not only what we call based on divine books, as well as also based on human intellects who are able to exercise their intellects in according to the Shariah to find the maqasid of Shariah, and finally fulfill the objective or the philosophy of Islamic law. So in this regard, and especially in today's life, Ijtihads must play an important role, especially when we refer to one of the hadiths related to the companions named Mu'az ibn al-Jabal, who was sent to the Yemen during that times as the governor. And Yemen at that time, maybe in terms of the culture, in terms of issues, not the same as in Makkah al-Mukarramah and as in Medina. Therefore, Mu'az ibn Jabal expect so many questions will be arise, and for these reasons, before he departed to Yemen, he asked the questions to the Prophet Muhammad. He was asked by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the questions, كيف تقضي إذا عرض لك قضاء, and how will you judge when the occasions of deciding a case arises? And in this case, Mu'az ibn Jabal said that, قال أقضي بكتاب الله قال فإن لم تجد في كتاب الله قال فبسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال فإن لم تجد في سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا في كتاب الله قال أجتهد رأيي ولا آلو. And according to these traditions, he directly replied to the Prophet that he want to solve the problem, to give the answer based on the Holy Quran. If not found directly in the Quran, he will refer to the Sunnah, and if he cannot find in the Sunnah, he will perform Ijtihad, right? what we call, I shall do my best to form an opinions and I shall spare no efforts. So in this regard, the Prophet Muhammad SAW endorsed about his opinions. So now, based on this tradition as well as another traditions, including also the verse of the Holy Quran, so if the people say that Islam is only based from the divine books, from the Holy Quran, from the Sunnah, and ignore about the importance of the reasons or intellects, it seems that it's not properly correct, because Islam also gives very important role of the reason, intellect, and in order to know the philosophy of the things that you have to know, you have to use the Ijtihad, or what we call the reasons, or what we call the intellects, by which you are able to respond to the questions of the people, of the public, of the stakeholders, and finally the people will certify of your response, or in another word, the problem can be solved. So the hadith, no doubt, recommends to exercise ijtihad. So maybe the questions, what is the limitations of performing ijtihad? And no doubt, as far as your ijtihad is mainly does not contradicted with the principle of Islam, with the verse of the Quran, with the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad SAW, you can perform that. That is why we have 4 different mazahib, mazhab Hanafi, mazhab Hanbali, mazhab Maliki, and Shafi'i. This is the most well-known school of faith by which the Muslims in the globe follow this school of faith for their daily activities, worship, and so on. And the methodology among them difference in order to understand the Shariah. Of course, they use the same verse of the Quran, the same hadith of the Prophet, and the way to interpret and evaluate them may be different between one to another. But at the end, this 4 school of faith has been recognized as the school that follow the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, even with different hukum or Islamic rulings, verdicts, but finally what we call their verdicts is in line with the Shariah Islamiyah. So this indicate that Ijtihad plays a fundamental role in shaping the dynamic of Shariah, that made its flexibility, development, and evolution in the changing circumstances. In linguistic senses, Ijtihad means the expending of maximum effort and exhaustion of all power. And technically, it means the expenditure of the effort in seeking the rules from the various sources of the Islamic law, notably from the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad SAW. So the idea is here that we want to bring the Islamic law as a dynamic law. It is a flexible law. It is not static as understood by some people, because when we say that Shariah is dynamic and flexible, murunatu ash-Shariah, no doubt it is in line with the maqasid ash-Shariah, with the objective of ash-Shariah, and no doubt this is in line with the requirements or the needs of Shariah in the modern life. The words what we call Ijtihad has been recognized also in several verses of the Quran, while the Quran directly express to describe the importance of the ijtihad in many verses of the Holy Quran. For example, some verses of the Holy Quran ending with, "Do you not reflect? Do you not understand? Have you no senses? Have you no sense?" In the question mark. There are signs in this for people who reflect. There are signs in this for people who understand, and so on. So all of these questions or statements in the form of questions by which we as human beings have to understand the meaning behind the questions that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala or Al-Quran encourage the people to use their mind or intellect in order to understand something, because as the Khalifah of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, as the noble creatures in this earth, no doubt if we compare with other creatures, we are among the noblest being of God because of the intellect. That is why Allah Subhanahu wa Taala what we call endings, many verses of the Quran with the questions as I mentioned to you earlier. And interestingly, one of the rational arguments in support to the authority of Ijtihad is beautifully presented by Imam Ash-Shafi'i, and no doubt he is the father of Muslim jurisprudence, in his book entitled Ar-Risalah. He acknowledged the necessary for the human reason to provide legal rules for the situations not expressly or specifically regulated by the divine's regulations or revelations. In his interesting answerings of the questions, when he was asked, "Will you give an example to explain the authority of Ijtihad in Islam?" Imam Ash-Shafi'i replied to the question by saying, "God command humankind to pray to direction of Kaabah. Turn your face toward the sacred place of worship, and you, Muslims, wherever you may be, turn your face when you pray toward it." From this Quranic injunction, according to Imam Ash-Shafi'i, that in the prayers, Muslims are recommended to face the Kaabah even when they are at a distance from it which are beyond their sight. Imam Shafi'i, in order to clarify the significant rule arrived from divine revelation and ijtihad respectively, points out the difference between the man who can see sacred mosque, Al-Kaabah, in front of his eyes, and the man who cannot do so as he is far away and has to use his reasonings to find out the direction of the sacred mosque or Al-Kaabah. So this indicates that we, for example, in so many places, many countries, we direct our prayers or salat toward Al-Kaabah. Of course, today we may use the compass, but not the same as the one who are performing prayers in the Al-Masjid Al-Haram, by which they may see Al-Kaabah clearly and then confidently about the direction of Al-Kaabah. Right. So based on the revelation that you have to face your directions during your prayers to Al-Kaabah. However, when, for example, you are far away from Al-Kaabah, you cannot see, you cannot what we call directly, what we call know about the place of Al-Kaabah by your own eyes. So in this case, maybe we have to use another tools or means, for example, the intellects, right? Intellects. Today we have the compass, we can use the compass, but in the case there is no compass, and then for example we are in the jungle, there is no internet connections, so in this case the Muslim are advised to use the intellect to identify the direction of Al-Kaabah, and it is considered as the right ijtihad, inshallah. and will be accepted by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So this is very simple example or argument given by Imam Ash-Shafi'i to respond about the importance of ijtihad in deriving any Islamic rule. So my conclusion today is, from what has been discussed, it is clearly to say that ijtihad plays a fundamental role in shaping the dynamic of Shariah that makes its flexibility, development and evolution in the changing circumstances, especially in the modern life. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.